Hello everyone, and welcome back to my DIY video series on the Pioneer SX950 receiver that I'm rebuilding. I've done the case. This is part 3. So part 1 was basically building the case, doing some cleaning up of the receiver itself, and part 2 was doing the protection circuit board, which I got working fairly well, and that's another video, separate video. And this one, what we're going to work on is the EQ amp assembly, or the phono board. And what I did was I took my list here, which I got on Audio Karma, and the first item actually on the list is AWF011, which is all the components required to redo and make the EQ amp assembly or phono board close to being brand new again. So I ordered all the parts on Mauser, and here they all are. I segregated all of the boards out, and here you've got all of the problematic transistors, and all the capacitors that are in these little baggies here and correspond to the items that I ordered. So this one will be a workup of the phono board, and we'll tear that down and replace all the components, and then likewise when I did the protection board, I'll plug it all back in just to make sure everything works, and we'll do that sequentially with each of the boards I do, so that way if there is a problem, I'm not going to power through all the boards and then have a problem and not be able to figure out which board is causing me grief. So I'll do them one at a time to make sure they're working correctly, and then carry on with the next board. So we'll break off into time-lapse photography here of me pulling this out, cleaning up the board, and then tearing down the appropriate components that have to be replaced, and we'll install the new components, and then we'll do a sound check afterwards and see how it sounds. So thanks for watching. All right, I've got a turntable set up behind me, and then of course I've got the receiver here, and the board that I just completed doing is this board here. It's not put in yet because I wanted to test it out before I fully assembled everything and made sure it was working good. So it's that board there, and right now I've got everything powered off. Turntable is plugged into unswitched on the receiver, and there's the power switch, so we'll power it up, and you can hear the protection circuit kick in, the relay, and then Right now I've got it on auxiliary, and here's my volume dial. It's a little touchy. I got to clean that one up yet, but there's the volume dial. You can hear it. A little bit of noise coming from it, but like I say, I haven't touched that yet. But we'll go to phono. Got to read everything upside down here. So there's your phono circuit, and we'll drop the needle and see if this board of mine works. So and there's the speakers, my Dynacos. And I don't want to trip off any issues with YouTube, so I just did a quick test. So yeah, it's working really good. I did a little bit of a test before I did the film here too. So the AWG, I think it is, 011 board, the EQ board is now complete, and everything is working correctly. So I'm tickled pink. So next one we'll move on to probably will be the flat amp board. I don't want to put my finger in it because it is live right now. So there we go. Thanks for watching. Just wanted to revisit this board again, and I got it incorrect in my previous video. It's actually AWF011 Equalizer amp assembly, and that's really the phono board. And so this is the board that I just rebuilt. And one of the things I wanted to note about this is I have this solder sucker here, this automatic solder sucker here, and I tried that on a couple of pulls for some of the capacitors here. And if you flip this board over, you will see I had to do a couple of little patch jobs right here, here, and across that trace there. And the reason is, what I found is this was actually a little bit too hot. I dialed down the temperature. It's just too beefy of a thing for these old boards. And what I was finding was the eyelets were lifting on some of these traces. So I just shunted them. This is not a big deal. It'll work just as good. But what I found was actually better is by using the Super Wick. Here, this stuff. This was actually, I could use my finer soldering gun, and after I started using that, I was having no problems whatsoever with lifting any of the eyelets on the traces. And that's what I'm going to stick with, I think, from now on, because they didn't use a lot of heavy solder on these boards, as you can see. And it's this stuff works really effectively. You don't have to put as much heat on them to get the to decouple the old components. And you know, I've used this on Dynacos and stuff like that, where they use heavy duty solder, and that stuff this works a treat. But when you're doing the fine, delicate stuff, I find the Super Wick works really effective. The other solder sucker that I use is this one here, which is, they come from, you can only get them in Japan, and you can only get them online, but man, these things are sure good. And so a combination of those two in some of these older, more delicate boards is probably the way to go. So I think from now on, that's what I'm going to do on all the further component boards. So that was my little lesson learned on this go around. So thanks for watching.